Hello, welcome back to Thrive Yoga Fit Transformational Coaching. This is Erin, and this is episode tres of my three-part series on an adapted 12-step program for grief that a dear friend has been walking me through. And I felt inspiration because I always want to share the tools that I'm using on my healing path because otherwise, I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So what this podcast is dedicated to is your spiritual growth. I throw some yogiisms in there. I throw in some quotable quotes, and I try to make it entertaining for you in the very best way possible, hopefully by being vulnerable and hopefully bring some levity in. But, giving you some real tools so you can sink your teeth into. Um, so this next step, the sort of like quote that I'm going to start with is I surrendered my life and my will over to this higher power. This has been a bit more difficult for me than I'd like to admit, but in the spirit of transparency, um, I thought that I was surrendering more than I was. And the good news is I became aware of it through going through these steps. And I think that, again, when you're battling the ego and like the ego is like, well, I am doing the thing. And like, don't you tell me what to do. You're not my real mom. Uh, it can be easy to fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I am doing the thing. And if I had a nickel for every time I coach someone and they're like, oh, I've already dealt with that. I'm like, okay, but your nervous system is telling me different. Can we go in there? And it's humbling because, I think it's important for everyone to have validation and acknowledgement that, like, yeah, you are showing up, you are doing the work, but like the work is endless. And, um, you can go into a deep pain point and trauma, hopefully in a safe way with, a trusted therapist or coach. And you don't just go in once, like going over and over again. It's like the process of editing. I've written two books. Writing a book is, I mean, it's not easy, but it's like, you do it. You can do it too. The harder thing though is editing that shit. Oh my God. It's sort of like killing the baby. You're just like, oh my God, oh my baby. And I have to like edit my baby. And it's just like kind of like cuts your guts out every time. Like that is the harder part. So being willing to look at different areas of your life and recognize that, hey, maybe I thought I was doing this or on some level I was, but like humble yourself. Again, spiritual community. It's good to have conscious people around you to be mirrors because and it's not like it doesn't make you lacking or less than that you have blind spots. Everybody does. Everyone has mistakes that they've made. Everyone has shortcomings. Everyone has like limitations. And again, the blind spots. And if you think that you don't, check your ego because that would be a construct of the ego. Just like how perfect doesn't exist. It's not real. Even if somebody seems perfect, they are not. They have photoshopped their photos. They have spinach in their teeth sometimes. They fart. They burp. They've made mistakes. They've said nasty things. I guarantee it. Recognizing this is important. That okay, even if I've explored something, I can go a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, a little bit deeper, and that's just the journey. So I became aware in this sort of step three of the process that I was not surrendering. The martial artist in me, whatever, like the stubborn redhead was like fighting these fucking thoughts, like throwing jabs and crosses and hooks. And I realized how much I was checking out with like these sort of distortions in my head. And when you do that, there's the fourth Yoga Sutra, which is so Taradrashtu Swarupe Vastanam, Vritya Sarupyam Itaratra. So it's the third, and that's the fourth. You get caught in the Itaratra if you're like ruminating, like you just kind of get caught in a loop. It's like social media addiction. Like you're blinking up at the ceiling one moment, and then the next minute you've spent 10 minutes on Instagram. You're like, what happened? I went into the dream again. So it happens to everyone. And I realize, wow, I'm not surrendering as much as I like need to. There's this game I came up with. This was years ago. I took a yoga retreat actually with Greg Nardi, an amazing, a very accomplished Ashtangi. And it was just like, sorting my shit out. I was like a newer ish yogi, at least like with a serious practice. I've been practicing yoga for almost 20 years, but I feel like I got really serious about it maybe 15 years ago. So I was taking a retreat with him and I was digging in. And in Shavasana, there was this game that came up in my head. And if you've listened to my podcast a couple years back, you may have heard me say this, but it bears repeating. And the game was like becoming aware of thoughts that I had that were making me feel like angry or sad or lonely or shame. And simply imagine like plucking them from my garden, pluck, 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 over and over again. And if you've ever done any gardening, you'll know that you can pluck a weed. And what happens? It grows back. A lot of times. Sometimes it doesn't, but a lot of times it does. And then what you do? Pluck it again. Try to go deep. Try to get the root. Try to get the root at the tip. And then you start to uproot these weeds. And what happens, and then there's more nutrition for what you do want to grow, like the crops that you want to grow, the flowers that you want to grow. So, anyways, I just sort of this game came to me because I was in the space of like, collective consciousness and quiet. And it just felt right and good and truth. And so I just started plucking, plucking, plucking. And I found that, wow, it's starting to feel better. This is working. And some of those weeds were starting to not grow back. And I did this very diligently for hours and then, which turned into days. And after about like halfway through the second day, my body started to also detox. I was like, oh, I've never started a detox purely from like my mental and emotional space. Usually it's like, all right, it's going to be a Sunday. I'm going to have a 3-day weekend. Like, let me do like a colon cleanse, liver cleanse, like juice or whatever thing I'm doing at that time. And, and then emotions come up and then you have to like sit with those. So this is the first time ever that I had realized like very clearly the connection of the mind and the emotions and the impact on the body because I started detoxing my mind and then my body started following suit. It's like, oh, okay, mama, we're going to do what you want. And it was very healing, very cleansing, obviously. And this is my best sort of applicable version of giving it up to God, of surrendering. It is the fifth niyama, which is Ishwara Pranidhana. And it is giving it up to the force greater than you. So I talked about in the second episode, like realizing that there is a force to give it up to. And now it's like, what does that look like? Like, how do you do that? So from the mental standpoint and from the emotional standpoint, just imagine plucking these weeds, letting them go. And if it keeps coming back, just freedom. That there's somewhere to put that. Like you don't have to carry it on your own. You just like take the backpack off and take a deep breath and maybe take some bricks out of the backpack. And a lot of times you put it on again anyway, because like familiarity, even if it's uncomfortable, it's there's a comfort in familiar. So that has been my process. And I will tell you, it takes a lot of diligence. I don't know why, but you could probably relate. It's like, I want to fight the thoughts. I want to fight the reality. I'm like, no, you can't tell me what to do, me to myself. I'm going to make my life miserable, whether you like it or not. And I'm like, I don't like this. Like, why are we doing this? So having this sort of force that's bigger than you that you can give it up to, and like that has been my way of doing it, and it seems to be working out pretty good. Again, it takes diligence. If you're lazy about it, you'll go right back into the old story, and then you become aware of it and go, oh crap, I fell back into the story. How do I know? Because I feel awful, and then go back to work. Right? It's okay to take a break. You're going to take a break even if you don't want to, because I don't know anyone that can just stay present all the time. I have moments that expand into my life on the mat, off the mat, that I've been working on for almost 2 decades. And, so don't be hard on yourself if you slip into unconsciousness. Like, that's part of the deal. Maya and dancing in it illusion is part of the human experience because we have these, this advanced piece of technology that is constantly projecting. It's like if you're in a room, like you're trying to have a sincere conversation with someone, but imagine there's a very loud TV that's blaring, and like there's all types of clips that come up, and this let's say the algorithms are tuned to know exactly what you like, or whatever is going to like call your attention or upset you, and like that's just constantly playing. So you would be trying to listen to the conversation of your friend very sincerely, like, uh-huh, yes, like I want to hear you and hold space, and like, but at the same time there's that like movie screen that's playing, and so it's going to catch your attention once in a while, and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. And they're like, wait, no, I'm paying attention to friend. So it's like this, sort of living meditation of Atayoganasasanam, being present in the moment, because the moment happens in the now. The now is where life is unfolding for you. The more that we can pull ourselves into the present moment, the happier that we are. So it's challenging, friends, but you can do hard work. I can show you how. And I will also do the hard work. I'll show you how, and I'll show you that it's not perfect, and that even if you have the tools, it's challenging, but at least for me, it's like choose your hard. Like doing this kind of hard with like little pops of light, epiphany, and joy versus like just wallowing in misery. I mean, they're both hard, but like I'll choose the work. And I don't really believe that anyone is lazy. I think that there could be heaviness on your heart, or like emotions that you haven't processed that make it feel like you're carrying a boulder on you. And that's where I think laziness comes in. It's not technically lazy. It's like this sort of film that has settled on you that makes you forget who you are and why you're worth showing up for. And um, and then we, rather than look at that and uncover it, is like we distract ourselves, and we fall into like coping mechanisms. But if you can recognize that that might be part of why you're procrastinating or being quote unquote lazy, and like give a little bit of compassion for that, that that's just been accumulated, and then start to get curious about it, the healing will begin. And you can, take off those layers, and like a spiritual burlesque, and just throw that top over your head, and then and then feel lighter afterwards, and more naked, but like in a good spiritual wholesome way. So um so y'all, I'm leaving for India and Thailand. I'm excited. I think every time I go to Mahabharata, and I go to the Mother India, the land of spiritual Mecca, I always have some kind of revelation that happens. So I'm curious to see who I will be when I come back to you. These have been pre-recorded, but I will say that at this time right now, I have 5 spots left in my November Japan retreat. If you want to come experience the land of the rising sun with me, it's my old stomping grounds. We're going to start in Osaka, go to Kyoto, Kobe, Nara, Hiroshima, and Kinosaki, I think is the name of it. It's an onsen town for those of us with tattoos, can go and enjoy hot springs. And we have a really cool group of people, including some of my family members. So if you want to go to that, 5 spots left. Once they're gone, they're gone. 2 spots left for India in June, and yoga teacher training coming up in February if you're local. And I have a coach training that I do every year. Haven't chosen the dates yet, waiting for some clarity from after this harmonium training that I'm going to with Ray Capo, actually. Raghunath Capo, if you're not familiar with him, he has a great podcast called Wisdom of the Sages. And I'm going to ask him to be on my podcast. So wish me luck. I hope he says yes. And maybe he'll listen to this and be like, that girl seems all right. I'm doing his training anyway. So hopefully he'll say yes. I think he will. I have a way with words. All right, y'all. Love you. Thank you so much for being so supportive and loving. And yeah, have a great night or morning, a great day. And I love you. Namaste.